This is Aldie for BoardGameGeek. I may or may not have Rahdo. I made a mistake when I scheduled with him with time zone problems. So we'll see soon if he can make it. If not, I'll sit here for like 15 minutes and tell everybody that I'll probably do it later tonight. We'll see if he can make it. He told me to hold on. So who knows? We'll see. Hopefully everybody's having a good day. I had a very busy day with Virtual Game Convention. I got to play Reavers of Midgard with Lance and Steph and Chris Cluey from the ex-Minnesota Vikings player. And it was really fun. I really enjoyed it. I think I'm getting messages here. Let's see what happens.
Yes, what happened?
Aha! He made it. I'm so sorry.
Hey, where I live.
Where do you live?
I don't live in the middle of the country.
I know. That was totally my fault. We're live, by the way. Are you okay?
Yes.
Are you okay
Hi,
with it?
everybody.
We can postpone if you're.
No. It's fine.
Okay. Yeah. It's so crazy.
My mom and I were going to watch Cowboys and Aliens tonight because she's been talking about it forever.
Oh, that movie?
I have to admit,
with Harrison Ford?
Really jonesing for it.
Oh, well, there you go. I got you out of it.
Exactly.
I really apologize. I'm normally very cognizant of time zones because of the way the internet works. Like normally I'm just like, I always put time zone in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's my normal MO.
Yeah.
But I didn't. I just said, hey, are you okay 10 p.m.? And I was like thinking 10 p.m. my time. But obviously that's not the same as yours.
Well, I mean, hey, it takes two to tango. I didn't confirm. So
exactly. Yep. Apologies. So
yes.
We are live, by the way.
Yes. I just Twitch. Confirmed. I just went to BoardGameGeek Live and look at that.
Here we are.
Main stage.
Hey, everybody. No, it's been pretty crazy today. I probably did a little too much than I should have, but
oh yeah,
it's all good. It's like typical convention stuff. So I mean, like,
so this virtual convention is no different in that regard.
I don't think
killing yourself in the name of fun.
Killing myself in the name of fun. I started out today with Lance, playing Reavers of Midgard with Lance, Steph, and Chris Cluey.
Yeah.
And that took like pretty long. That was like 3.5 hours. Because,
oh, I bet.
Virtual board gaming takes probably like a little, like maybe I would say 25% longer just because of the nature of moving things on the board.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, how long, I mean, does it get faster?
It did.
I mean,
once I understand.
Has it gotten faster for you yet or for Steph?
They're fast. I'm slow because I don't do the whole.
You were dragging it on.
I was, yeah, and I didn't know the game. They knew it. I could tell there was points in the game where they were like waiting for me to take my turn. I'm like,
oh, I hate that.
And it's one of those games. You played the Reavers of Midgard yet?
No, I do have a copy of it. I'm hoping to cover it next month.
I quite enjoyed it.
I pushed it away for so long because Champions just did not land with us.
Okay.
And I had no idea that this was pretty much just a total redo.
It is, yeah.
Right? It is. Yes. Okay, good.
I don't think it's anything like it's other games. I don't think it's anything like those games. So,
yeah. I feel like I should sit like this and turn my back to you.
Or do we have our backs back to each other? I wonder, can I rearrange my windows? Here, let me
through the power of Zoom. Anything is possible.
Here's the thing. I am like literally I just started up and ran from my previous event. I screwed something up with this. I'm off. I'm really off for this stuff. Normally I would be ready to go, but I didn't have it scheduled on the BGG. I went too long with the video with game night, but we were playing some games, so it was having fun. We played the Scooby-Doo game, which I really, really like.
Really? That's the escape room, the Scooby-Doo game?
The Escape from Haunted Mansion, yeah.
Where did I hear that it was a little too simplistic? Is that wrong? That it's much more like kid or not kid, but like family focused.
Yeah, it's a little on the family side, but I really like that. I mean, I wasn't. There was a couple points where we were like beating our heads around, and it definitely took all 5 of us or 6 of us to get it going.
Okay. So actually, come to think of it, I was starting to say, oh, is that a bad thing? But the more escape rooms I play, the more I realize they're not for me because my brain is not wired for it. And the ones that people, that's a 1-star. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
No more 3 stars.
Yeah. No, I mean, I felt I had that giddy feeling, you get sometimes with do you get that feeling when you do like open the envelope kind of games and like open the next secret and kind of see what's coming? Do you have that feeling? Like I'm like, oh, the excitement.
I guess. I mean, yeah. I mean, when it was fresh and new and exciting, I mean, certainly Pandemic Legacy Season 1 did that.
Yeah.
Obviously. And I think with every progressive game, it has become less of an impact. Not that it's not meaningful, but it's certainly not a new thing for me anymore, opening an envelope or a box or what have you.
So a little more whatever.
Rote.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, you can't judge me. I play way too many games, and I don't replay near enough games. So
right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely an odd duck. Gator Dave.
Is that how you got your nickname?
No, my nickname. I'll come back in a second, but I saw Gator Dave asking. This is Shadow Kingdoms of Valeria, which I just finished filming like 2 hours ago, and I didn't put away. I have no idea when it's going to go on Kickstarter, but boy, I think I'm going to get some people pissed off in my final thoughts when people see it.
All right, no spoilers.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the publisher feels about it. It's nothing to do with the game. It's to do with the meta narrative of Valeria Card Kingdoms, or starting with Card Kingdoms, leading all the way up to this. I think I will definitely have a different take than most people, I suspect.
So that brings me to my first question. You ready for this?
Is it a hard-hitting question?
This one's a little hard. This one's mean.
I was promised hard-hitting questions.
I honestly, I don't have that many hard questions. I don't even know if I would call them hard, but this is actually an interesting question.
All right.
So is it Shadows of Valeria card?
This is Shadows of Valeria. Yeah.
Or what's the name?
Oh, I'm sorry. No. Shadow Kingdom of Valeria.
Shadow Kingdom of Valeria. Okay. So This is a Kickstarter preview.
Yes, it is.
And you charge money for this from the publisher. It's a paid preview.
I'm a big shill.
No judgments here. But here's the question. Okay. If the publisher doesn't like the outcome of this, do you not publish it?
Oh, yeah. I'll be totally. That is correct. I finished the video. Well, first of all, okay, here's my whole process for that. They contact me. I say, if I don't dismiss it out of hand, because why are you talking to me about a party game or whatever?
Right.
That is not my show. By the way, I should say, I'm actually looking at you.
Yeah.
It may look like I'm trying to avoid eye contact.
No, I get Zoom. I know. And I'm looking at you on my screen, which is making my camera is also right here. So yeah. I think people understand that these days. Like it's a fair
point. It's a fair point. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I see so many, so many people are using their laptops, and that's just not the setup I have. I didn't want to think there was any kind of animosity or, we can't make eye contact.
Are we back to back? I don't know. I wish I could reverse it in Twitch. We are back to back, by the way. We are. We're facing away from each other, by the way, slightly.
Yep. We're both just looking in this direction.
There's something over there. You could mirror your Twitch video, your Zoom video if you wanted to.
Oh, really? So that I'm looking away from you the same way you're looking away from me?
Well, we'd be more looking at each other if you mirrored your video. If we both mirror a video, we will be looking at each other.
Where is that option?
So you see where this says stop video? Don't click that. Click the little arrow next to it.
Video settings?
Yeah, it's in there. And you can mirror your video.
I'm doing it. I'm going to do it.
I'm doing mine too.
This is exciting for people.
And this is good TV.
Meetings, my video, touch up, mirror. I am mirrored. I'm going to unmirror.
Okay. Did it work?
I am now looking. My back is to you.
Is that worse?
I don't know. I think it sends a message. Clearly,
actually,
the schism of 2020.
Oh, you know what? I don't.
Because you've asked every media person under the sun except for me to come on board.
Oh my gosh! Well, you got to come on board then if it's a potential.
No, I'm kidding. You have. I mean, folks, you have asked. We have talked about it in the past.
We have talked about it.
I am too lazy. I'm set in my ways. I've got my system. It just works.
So we mirrored our video, but it didn't mirror on Twitch. So whatever we have as our defaults here is basically what's going on.
Okay. I'm going to switch over to Twitch and see. Yep. What I see is what I see. So, okay, I need to mirror myself.
But here's the thing. In my view, we're facing each other. On Twitch, we're facing away from each other. And I don't know how to fix that, if that is even possible. Well,
honestly, I don't care about these other people. I just care about you.
I do too. Right? I would love to work with you, Rahdo. If we can ever make it work. Well, I don't know why you ever got that feeling, because I
Oh no, I was totally joking. Totally joking.
My sense, but here's my sense of you.
Yes.
You're a bit of a loner.
Yes, very much so.
We'll get into that. But you got to finish this question with the paid preview
stuff. So, Daily Magic contacts me about this.
Yes.
The first hurdle is it just obviously not for me? No. Second hurdle is send me the rules. They send me the rules. I read literally probably, somewhat less than 50 rule books every month. The vast majority for games I will never play. Right. Because I have read so many rule books now, I can tell from reading it. It's very, very rare that it is not immediately apparent to me what that game will feel like, what makes it special, whether it's worth my time, whether it's going to be, and more importantly, whether it's worth Jen's time, whether she will enjoy it. Because the last thing I want to do is bore her, because if I bore her enough times, she'll never come back to the table. And then it's all over. So, this passed the muster, and Jen and I play it, and hopefully I like it. Almost without exception, there's always going to be some stuff that I don't like. And actually, one of the reasons I like doing Kickstarters is because it's not too late. It's not too late to fix it. Right. Like, I covered, what was it? Dark Road, Merchants of the Dark Road. I think its Kickstarter is just ending, or I forget.
It's 44 hours left.
We had real problems with that game. There were certain things that we identified, and when I talked to them, they said, "Yep, we have known that. We're working on. We've identified that as an issue. Of course, any Kickstarter game is still going through production, without exception. It's very rare. And so I was able to give them feedback, and I ended up, as you know, I'm a designer for 20 years, and it is hard to get it out of my system. So every once in a while, I get a nice little back and forth. And I say, well, have you considered this or that? And they say, no, but boy, we really like that other thing. And I love it when a little bit of something of me makes it into the game, and it fixes it for me and Jen. And I know if it fixes it for me and Jen, it's going to fix it for the lion's share of my audience, because I do think I really kind of have the couples gaming market cornered, because honestly, I was in the right place at the right time. Of course, there's a lot of people covering that space now, but I was just first through the door. But I will not deny, sometimes we get the game and it is not what I thought. I do make mistakes. The most well-known example of that was Myth. And so Jen and I played Myth. We played it a lot, and I spent a lot of time trying to get that game into my head. And eventually I thought I had it, and I contacted them and said, look, I'm going to film this. This is what I'm going to say. Do you want me to continue? I think it will do you more harm than good, and you're nice people. I have no desire to hurt you. And this was before I accepted money. This was when I was doing everything for free. And more power to them. They said, no, we, hit us with your best shot. And so I hit them with the best shot. And what I complained about, it became kind of the issue of the game. And it kind of, in some small ways, changed the board game media industry, because I was the only one saying it, and there was all kinds of crazy stuff. Other shows weren't aware of the problems I had, because they had actually been taught the game by the developers, and there was all kinds of stuff. So that's an example. More recently, 6 months ago, there was a game that came in, and I was very confident. I mean, it's like, I'm reading this. I've seen these systems in other games. You can't really mess this up. And it looks real pretty. Okay, fine, send it. And I'm not going to mention what that one was, but I was going to get paid a lot of money to cover it. And Jen and I played it, and we're like, wow, this is so no. This is not what we hoped. There's a million, I don't know where to start for how I would try to fix this. And again, I contacted them and said, hey guys, you have hired me for my services. I will go ahead. This is what I will say. And of course, what they'll often want to do is have a discussion. I'm perfectly happy. I have spent so many hours. I mean, there are so many Kickstarter publishers who will confirm that they have gotten hours of effectively free consulting from me as I explain this and that and the other. And here's why this is never going to work as a two-player game. This is what you missed in scaling it, and this and that and the other. And then I eventually say, well, okay, that's cool. I hope you can work on some of this stuff, but I understand you've got to move forward. Do you want me to film it? And they said no. And I said, okay. Then all I need is $20 so that I can take it down to the post office, and I'll put it in the mail and send it wherever you want to go. And that's an example of I walked away from a fair amount of money to do it, but because I don't want to do a bad job for anybody. And I feel that pressure all the more now. It was one thing when they weren't paying me. And so, occasionally, one would slip through, but, and I'd be a little bit, I've got a whole thread called niceguy.rahdo.com where I list, everybody says, oh, Rahdo never says boo about anything. I list hundreds of games that I have explained thoroughly and in great detail why Jen and I didn't like it, why it didn't stay on our shelves. And it's just, anybody who just takes a random pick of 5 videos said, oh, well, I just happen to get 5 things where he's positive. That's not a bug. It's a feature. I'm mostly positive because I walk away from the bad stuff. One, I don't let it through the door in the first place, because if you do your due diligence, and I understand it's not people's jobs to do the kind of due diligence I do. And so, of course, it's much more expected. My first 6 months of being a board game geek, I found like 2 good games out of 20 that Jen and I actually liked. And it was just an exercise in miss. Maybe we shouldn't do this. Maybe this was a bad idea. Maybe we should go back to video games. Yeah, exactly. Because we started with Pandemic, and that was near flawless.
One of the best games ever made. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's kind of
that's a high bar.
Yeah, exactly. And so then I'm like, well, okay, let's try Red October. That's a cooperative game too. And
sure is.
Oh, this is it sure is. There you go.
It is a cooperative game.
I can't tell you how many hours I spent, because this was when I was still working in the video game industry, and I had a almost 3-hour train ride to work and back. And that's if it didn't break down because of heavy snow or whatever. I spent hours on my laptop trying to make that game fun for us. And because I felt I could do it, and I couldn't. That's a game. That's a party game in Euro.
It's a party. Yeah, it's a party.
Yeah,
like,
if you're
look what happened.
5 players.
Yeah.
You might as well. So yeah, we just kept missing, but it is definitely a skill. It is a muscle. The more you take the time to read the rule books, watch the videos, you can start getting really kind of a spidey sense. And that's why you can pretty much see 99% positive with critiques. I critique almost everything. I'm actually kind of proud of my critiques. I think I tend to go a little bit deeper than just, was it fun or not? But because I was a designer and I have a language for it, but I don't know. I can't blame anybody for people who are just driving by at 55 miles an hour. Of course, they don't know everything I do. They just see their window and they make their
assumptions.
But to answer your question, yes, I many times, publisher, I even remember the first game. I wonder, can I tell you the first game? It's been years since I gave that speech when I realized, Cornish Smugglers.
Cornish Smugglers. I don't know if I've ever played that one. I barely remember. I know the name.
But art, I liked the idea. And this was back when I was more, how bad could it be? Oh, yeah, we don't like this at all. And that was the first time I told them, look, guys, I'll film it. I will do my best to represent it accurately and in an upbeat manner. I will do my best to ensure the game puts its own best foot forward. Because all I'm trying to do is give a voice to the game,
Right.
And then in my final thoughts, I actually say, but then I said, and this is what I'll say in my final thoughts, and this is why I'll say it's not for us. And they opted out, and it was. I was surprised. I was terrified because I'd already felt like I'd kind of disappointed them and I'd let them down. But no, they were really cool about it and they really appreciated it. And so I've always been kind of a channel that publishers. I'm kind of a safe space. That if I say yes, send it to me, they know it's not going to blow up in their face, because worst case scenario, I'll warn them, hey, this is what I was going to say. Are you happy with that?
Yeah.
And sometimes they say no, and often they say yes. Good, hard question.
I think that's a fair way to run things, because I don't know. I know a lot of people demand 100% transparency and everything should be out in the open, and I need to be warned about these bad games potentially.
Yeah.
But then
I understand that. I am not hard-hitting journalist Mike Wallace.
Yeah.
I did not
we're talking about games here.
Yeah. I did not do this because I wanted to protect the little guy and make sure that no one ever has a misstep. I had so many missteps, and honestly, you make mistakes and you grow from it. And I don't know, you tell me, Scott, maybe things have changed, but when I started out 10 years ago, if we got a bad game, and I got plenty, I've got a whole top 10 about this where I talk about the first a couple of dozens games I played, because I had to go back and look through all my old records and stuff like that. Shoot. I'm a scatterbrain. What was I just saying?
10 years ago.
Yeah. So 10 years ago, when I came across a bad one, and Jen, I was like, oh, well, that's no Pandemic. or eventually, I think our second big one we found was Agricola. because it was like, oh, wow, okay, we've got 2 now. We're going to stick with this. Pandemic was good. Agricola was good. Less we said about these other things, the better. But I was able to get rid of all those games. I was able to flip them.
Yeah.
Your site is an incredibly valuable tool. And I always kind of looked at it as, hey, you know what? There's no risk here at all. If I get this game and I pay full retail, which is what I did back at the time, and we don't like it, I will find somebody very quickly who will buy it off of me for, I'll be out $15 at the end of the day. And I just looked like at that as, oh, you know what? Sometimes you pay $15 to go to the movies and it's not a very good movie. You don't decry the heavens and say, no, why didn't someone warn me? It was the barrier to, it was the ticket. It didn't work out. I moved on, and hopefully the game found a home where it would be loved, because it wasn't gonna be loved in ours. And that's still the case, right?
I think so, because there are several games I've come across on the world of Kickstarter that I've just hated. And then I go into the Kickstarter comments and like, did the best thing ever. I go to the, there's so much, what's the word? Diverse tastes.
Yes.
In the world of board games, that I'm like, anything that I might not really enjoy, there's always somebody that would love it. And that's the world of board games. I mean, I've never found a game that's sort of universally hated. I mean, there aren't any that I know of.
When you're talking about gateways and trying to bring new people in, it's a very common attitude. Don't worry. There's a game for every player out there, guaranteed.
Yeah.
But equally important to remember, there's a player for every game.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how much I hate it. There's going to be somebody out there who will find that game and it'll be their favorite game of all time. And I don't want to scare them away from it. And really, back when I was in a different state, when I was more of a normal, early prototypical game geek, I just took my lumps. It didn't work out, and I moved on to the next game. It was easy. I guess maybe it's tougher now. Shipping is much more expensive than it used to be. I guess that's maybe it's no longer, a $15 loss. Maybe it's like a $30 loss. And that's maybe a bit bigger.
Yeah.
Maybe I've lost touch. All successful reviewers like me, you have to remember, me, Tom, Rodney, all of us, shut up and sit down, we have lost touch because we buy very few games. And, it's one of the reasons people ask, well, why don't you actually talk about the value for money of this game? Because I got it for free. And I got the previous 50 games on my shelf for free. How can I judge that? Never mind the fact that I don't know what money means to you, or you, or you, or you. For you, $50 might be a reasonable experiment. For somebody else, it might be the difference between making their rent or not.
Yeah.
It's
paying for food.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I've always stayed away from it, because I will answer questions till I'm blue in the face. And that's probably the biggest mistake I ever made running my channel, is this commitment to answer any question I see anywhere. I've broken that a few times, but I still try to do it, and it keeps me up at night.
I subscribe to the other. I don't answer every question I see, but that's the kind of personality I am.
Yeah. Well, honestly, ever since I started wearing this shirt, I'm having to subscribe to your newsletter as well.
And it's not because I don't want to make, a lot of stuff for me is very personal and private. Like, I've never talked to anybody about it. Right. Maybe, and Michelle and I are probably the only ones I've ever talked to about stuff like this, very, very like private stuff for me. So
you say that, now you have to drop a tidbit. You've got us all titillated. Let us in, Scott.
I guess I'm not an argumentative person.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a good defender of my own decisions.
Oh, you're not interested in debate? I'm
not interested in debate. Like, I have my opinions about stuff. If I start debating, I will probably see your point, but I might not agree with it. And then you go on for a lot of hours or whatever. And
where it'll end up.
And me and my dad are like this, right? Because like, I'm just like, let's just not have this conversation. You know what I mean? Like, those kinds of things, right?
Yeah.
I know I'll never win. I'll never sway him to my side, and he'll never sway me to mine. And that's why I sort of like, well, I don't want to bring this stuff up in public. Here's an interesting. Have you always been a public person? Like, are you always like your entire life? No.
No, that gets to the question you asked before.
The loner
Here's the
question.
Deal. Do not take this the wrong way. You're not talking to the real me right now.
Yeah. I know. I know that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we've talked about
I think we've had this conversation before.
Yeah. In high school, I was a shy, quiet, introverted kid who always wore my hoodie, walking around in the 80s with big old Walkman headphones, listening to Beatles that I got off of scratchy records from a local record store. And I would have gone my whole life, head down, eyes in a book, never making personal connections. I knew plenty of guys in the video game industry that were a template for the life that I was going to lead, because I did not reach out. I wasn't driven. I was too paralyzed with fear and all of that. But I did have a few friends, and they knew I was a real sarcastic so-and-so and, fairly quick-witted, but nobody ever saw that. This was in my junior year of high school. Robin, I can't think of his last name. I'm thinking it was Loxley, and it wasn't that. And he was like the golden boy senior,
very popular guy. Yeah.
And he was directing the school play that year. And he had heard rumors about me that I was actually a really funny guy, the quiet kid who never said anything. And he went to our school principal and said, Mr. Holmgren, I want this kid in my lead. Who? Richard Ham? The kid who's never missed a day of school, who's never said boo to anybody. You want him in this big, ridiculous, outlandish role where he has to sing and dance and carry the whole play. That's the kid. And he said, yep. And Robin, you're our golden child. Whatever you want, you got. And I, for the first time in my entire life, got called to the principal's office for no reason. I had no idea why, because I was always a good kid. And Robin was in there and it said, okay, Richard, this is what you're going to be doing for the next 6 months or 3 months or whatever it was. And I was too timid. And I said, okay. And so that was a play. I don't remember the playwright. It's called The Vagabond. Yes. And I was the titular character, the vagabond, a mysterious person who comes in on a rain-swept night on a roadside hotel in 1800s America or something like that. And nobody knows who he is. And he's a real goofy, odd guy. And there's mysteries about him. And there's lots of shooting and all that. And I had no choice. I was thrown into the deep end of the pool. And this character, which was just always quick-witted, making fun of everything, and just talking a mile a minute. After the play was over, and it was a big hit, and everybody, this is why Robin won, because he knew it would be a shock. Everybody knew I was the quiet kid who didn't say anything. By the way, I forgot to mention, I had insane, worst acne you can imagine. Total pizza face, in the worst, really egregious possible way. I mean, that so paralyzed me with social anxiety. But there I was on stage doing just all this amazing, outlandish stuff. And afterwards, the whole school continued to expect that from me, because all of a sudden, oh, that's who he always was. He just put his hoodie down. And I just kept doing it. And it became a second skin. It's this character that I learned how to play. I went to college. For a little bit, I kept doing it. And then I realized about a few months in, oh, wait, I don't have to keep doing this anymore. I can stop. Nobody expects this from me here. But before I stopped, I sat down next to Jennifer Bump in German 102, and I gave her the razzmatazz tap dance, Mr. Life of the Party, the Rahdo persona, which I wouldn't name it for many, many years. And she said, oh, I like this guy. He's fun. And so she kind of worked her way into my life, and I'm like, okay, this is nice. And eventually, and we got married, and we've been happily married now for, I want to say 50 years, but that's wrong. I think over 30 years now. But it's only if right. The timing had been a little bit off. If I had been in a different German 102 class and I hadn't sat next to a cute girl who thought my shtick was funny, I probably would have stopped it. And I'm sure you've worked with these guys in the video game industry as well. They're quiet, they're diligent, everybody likes them, and everybody feels a little sad because they just go home to their cat. Yeah,
I know a few of those.
That would have been me, and that is still the real me at heart.
Yeah. And
it's funny, you hear this from performers all the time.
Yeah.
I don't know what that signifies, but it is definitely true in my case. Jen knows when I'm on, and then okay, switches off. Oh. All right, now I can just be, I'm not calm. I just have gigantic lungs, but I'm not 100% like what I'm giving you right now. I do it without even thinking. I could do this all night long. So while I say it's not the true me, I guess that's not really true. It's nothing else. Fake it till you make it. It's become me. It's become a part of me.
I guess human emotion and interactions is based on other humans, right?
Yeah.
Right. And that affects the way you act and treat other people. But if you're just by yourself all the time, then you don't need to do any of that stuff. So you kind of just revert to whatever.
And
it's not like I'm an outgoing person and I'm really exciting and I'm all fun by myself.
Yeah.
With no one around, right? I mean, that's not who people are, I don't think. I bet a lot of people are like that. Interesting.
That so question, I went off the deep end. I don't remember what the question was.
She thought you were this great. Do you like being a public persona?
Oh.
Because it sounds like you're not really internally, like deep down in your heart, you don't like to be that person.
One of the issues I have with conventions, and nobody who's ever met me at a convention, please don't take this the wrong way. Or I'm sorry, anybody who's ever met me at a convention, please don't take this the wrong way. I would love, and in fact, I have tried to put on glasses and a baseball cap, because that's a weird look nobody normally sees me in, and see if I can get away with it Clark Kent style. Because I would love to just walk around anonymously. I really should become a cosplayer, so I can just be in a Sonic the Hedgehog costume and no one will know.
Who's underneath that blue paint?
And that would be a more comfortable space for me. But I don't mind, because here's the thing. At odds with the fact that I am an insular, withdrawn person, and I am happy to take the path of least resistance, which is just head in a book or whatever, and hello, nice to meet you. Oh, excuse me, can I get around? And that's about the extent of my interactions. But on the flip side, I mean, you were in the video game industry too. I would imagine you share this with me. The biggest thing that I take away from having made video games for 20 years that gives me joy, that makes me think it was all worth it, wasn't the money or the opportunities. It was the fact that I know for a fact that I improved the lives of literally millions of people around the world. And, I still hear about it today whenever I talk about Siphon Filter or Fable or Brink or, or Pitfall: The Lost Expedition. And that does warm my heart genuinely and makes me think, all that stuff I didn't want to do for all those years, all that time I spent away from my wife crunching and, sleeping on the floor 4 days in a row to hit a milestone, it was worth it. And it's also, that was one of the things I used to motivate myself at the time. This will be worth it because this will make people happy. And, what better can I do for the world than that? I mean, sure, there are a lot of things you can do, but that's how I internalized it. So that applies to Rahdo Runs Through as well. And if anything, it's a smaller scale, obviously, because we're on a smaller stage here, but it is a much bigger impact in part because of the moving on of technology. I mean, anybody wants to talk to me, they just can. Nobody could talk to me when I was making Siphon Filter. The internet didn't exist. But, now it's easy to reach out and touch somebody for good or bad. And I do see people, and I hear stories of folks. I mean, I've had emails and geek mails that have literally made me, and when I show it to Jen, both of us just cry, because people talking about how, I remember one, a guy who was able to connect to his father because of a game I talked about that had allowed me to connect with my father. And those things really stick with you. And I'm rambling and I'm winding down, and I'm waiting for a question.
I'll contrast you a little bit. I'll contrast you a little bit with a sad story. Okay. The sad version of the video game world. When you work on games that are not as popular as what you got to work on, I feel like I wasted my life.
Sin was a brilliant game.
Right, but it never got what you've experienced. I mean, we had a fan. There was one point in time when I got groupied at E3, and that was great.
Over
like
what?
That for Sin.
Okay.
Right. Oh, you worked on the Sin? Yeah, like that kind of feeling, like you're the rock star game developer, like many people were at that time, like John Romero and Peter Molyneux and all those guys. Well, I was like, ooh, the fan came up to me and knew my name because I'm in the credits and everything, right? So it was cool. But not having that on a bigger scale, plus no money, plus never releasing one of my games I worked on for the longest, really soured me on the video game industry. So we have polar opposites in that feeling. I feel like I wasted 10 years, but I did learn problem solving. because you know how video games are. 5 million problems. You solve 5 million problems or a million problems or whatever it is, and then you have a game. I was really good at that. Churning through problems after problem after problem after problem and solving them, making game finally finished. That
that's satisfaction.
The satisfaction of finishing a video game, there's nothing like it in the world. So far for me.
I completely agree with that.
Yeah, but when I decided to full-time Board Game Geek, which I feel like has had a more impact on the world than the 2-3 video games I worked on, then that made like my problem solving and my stick-to-itiveness and all of that stuff worth it, right? So it was sort of a crescendo. Like, how did I always think like every decision you make in your life is going to get you somewhere, however it may be. What decision led me to come back to Dallas? I could have stayed in Bay Area for the rest of my life. I was perfectly happy there. But the allure of video game development brought me back to Dallas. I met my wife. I met my first game group. Board game group, probably would never met in the Bay Area until it was like a big thing, right? It was like that niche little hobby that I got dug into, and the Dallas group was here and they were doing it and they had all the games and the German connections, and that sort of changed my life that way. So,
and what if half of that had happened? What if you went from 3DFX, doing hardcore hardware programming, and at that point you stumbled across Catan, and at that point you got pulled in, and at that point, I know your story, how you wanted more detail and it was all gate kept, and you're like, I'm going to open the floodgates. Board gaming should be for everybody. I'm going to make it happen, and all of that. Do you think, had you tried to go down that road, you would have been able to have the stick-to-itiveness and the resourcefulness and all of that? Or is a big part of it because of the hard knocks you got from working? Was it Ion Storm, 3D Realms,
Ritual
whichever ones it was?
Yeah, Ritual Entertainment and 3D
Ritual, right? Ritual, yes.
Yeah, but 3D Realms really was the one that was the biggest beatdown.
Oh gosh,
with Ritual, I shipped 2 games in 3 years. I worked at 3D Realms for 5 years and made no games. Technically, anyway, I don't want to talk about myself.
Ever.
Yeah, but I don't know. So. But without that video game, like you said, if I had stayed at 3DFX and stayed in hardware, that company went out of business.
Yeah.
2 years after I left. Thank you. No stock options there either, by the way.
Oh.
So, sometimes you leave with like these nice stock options. You usually cash them in at every moment. That's my one tip to anybody in a startup. I don't know how many people it applies to these days. Exercise your options and sell them at every opportunity. Don't pretend that you're going to be 10 times worth more in the future. Yeah. They will not be, most likely.
The odds are against you.
The odds are way against you. They're way. And one of my friends told me that, and I'm like, oh man, but we got the best hardware.
Yeah.
Where's 3DFX? Where's NVIDIA?
Yeah.
So anyway, I didn't want to talk about myself much.
Well, no, I think it's interesting. I think people want to know about you.
Pardon?
Let's not forget. Let's not mince words. You are personally responsible for all of this. Think about how many lives you have made better. Think about you know what your stats are. How many people come, how many, the constant influx of new people who are coming in just because, well, I like this Ticket to Ride thing. What else is there? Maybe I should look.
That was the goal.
Maybe somebody else would have stepped up to fill the void. Would it have been successful? I don't know. You were a very unique conflux of skills and passions, and I don't think any of us would be here right now. I don't think I would probably still be in the video game industry right now, because ultimately, like I said, pandemic was amazing. Hit it out of the park. And then failure. And it wasn't until I realized, I can go to the BGG suggestion forum and just ask and stop guessing. I got, what was one of my fails? I got the Motley Fool stock option game because my wife really liked the Motley Fool show newsletter. It wasn't a podcast yet. It was a newsletter.
Oh yeah, it was a newsletter. Yeah.
And I thought, she'll like that. And no, we didn't like that. I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah. I
was just flailing around in the dark. So yeah, you changed my life in a big way.
Oh, thanks, Rahdo. Appreciate that. I went through it myself, right? Like that was when back in 1998, there was nothing, right? Virtually nothing. There was a lot, but it wasn't what you want, right? It was not exactly how I wanted it. And I was just spending money, right? And it was like, you just order stuff sight unseen from
everything was
Germany. Yeah, everything was a gamble. Yeah. It was just like, look at Adam Spielt had a color catalog though, and that made it a lot easier to spend the money. You're like, wow, that cover looks pretty cool. Couldn't translate it because there's no Google Translate or nothing back then. We would piece it together with German.
How did we do anything? How did we function day to day?
Believe me, I wish I was 20 years younger now with the technologies.
Gosh, yeah.
Huh.
Do you remember? You used to, in Seattle, if you had a question, there was a hotline you could call to the public library, and a librarian would go look up the answer in an encyclopedia.
I did not know that existed.
That existed in the late 80s and mid 90s in Seattle, and I used it.
Information line. Wow. I didn't. Well, yeah. I guess maybe if I had known that existed, I might have used it. Yeah. But so we sort of swung off course.
Yes. But, sorry.
Well, thank you, Richard. That means a lot to me. I mean, I don't want to take credit for stuff that who knows what would have happened in the world, but I'm happy to be in it right now, which is fun, and it's exciting, and it's like the most exciting thing I've ever done in my life, right? So
well, I mean, your impact, I think, is literally legendary, and maybe you didn't get out of the video game industry, but like you said, it got you to here.
And I've had a few.
Sure every single person in this chat thread right now would agree, that they owe you all because of BoardGameGeek and what you created. Not alone, you and your team. I don't want to.
Well, the world has created it, really. Yeah. I mean, the world had to be there too.
Yes.
The people, because it's not all. I mean, initially we did all of it, but that's an impossibility now, right? Because there's just too much. But and it was too much back then too. Now it's way too much. I have these like really lame questions. Let me ask you one.
I'll try to make them good.
Do you think you're weird? Like, are you normal or weird?
These are hard-hitting questions. No one's ever asked me that. Am I think, actually in my, I do a monthly podcast, and I divide it. The first half is game-related questions because my entire podcast is just people asking questions.
Games, yeah.
Questions.
No, it's a fantastic podcast, by the way, everybody, if you haven't listened to it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. The second half is when Jen comes on because I say, hey, ask us personal questions about our lives. I don't know why I needed all that preamble. One of the questions it was just completely floored me, and I just didn't know what to say. This sounds self-serving. It's a recent example. You can go listen to the episode. Why are you such a wonderful person? And that was really weird. And if Jen hadn't been in the room to take that, and she said, well, here's why I think he's wonderful. And, because she knows my life story and she knows my parents and she knows my upbringing and she knows what all the weird stew meats that came together to form I think I'm very weird. I don't know. You literally flummoxed me. I don't know what to say. That was the first thing. I don't know if that's the best one. Okay. Here's where I'm weird, and I'll try to keep it on topic. I am such a ridiculously extreme Care Bear. I mean, I know you fancy yourself a bit of a Care Bear as well.
It depends on the game, but yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't depend on the game.
Yeah, for me, it depends on the game.
Yeah, it is. I am incapable of deriving joy under any circumstances. And I've just gotten more taciturn and set in my ways as time has gone on from being able to knowingly take steps to invalidate or block or ruin your attempts to achieve your goals. And I know it's just a game. I know you would say, no, hit me, bro. I want you to hit me. I want the challenge. But if I'm doing that, all I'm thinking is, oh man, gosh, that's awful. I mean, I cannot stop that internal dialogue. And I do think that's really weird. I do think it's really reflective of my overall personality. I guess there's a tie into what I was saying before, because I am insanely empathetic. I spend so much of my time, and I'll tell you, it drives my wife nuts. Just trying to think of what's their perspective. What's it like? I mean, every time somebody cuts her off, and I guess I won't go blue, so I won't say what she really says on the freeway when somebody cuts her off. And I've learned to stifle this urge to say, well, hey, they might be on the way to the hospital. Yes, they could just be careless jerks. Again, I'm trying to keep it clean. I normally go very blue, as you know, from our other show we do together.
Yep.
But I'm keeping it clean for VirtualCon. For
the BoardGameGeek.
Yep. For the Board Game Geek audience, this is not Alaboom After Dark.
I did mark it mature. I did set this as an 18+ show though. So.
Oh, did you?
I did, because you can list that in our. We'll try to keep it.
Not to abuse.
We'll try to, yeah.
We guys and gals, we both come from the video game industry.
Oh yeah.
It's all blue all the time.
It's ridiculous how
every other word. Yes. It's hard to break that habit sometimes. But yeah, and this is a hard habit. It drives Jen nuts that I'm always, and it gets me into trouble too. A couple months ago in April, I did that in a very sensitive topic on Twitter, and I ended up really offending and hurting a lot of people because I thought, look, I'm just going to be the neutral party. I'm going to stand here in the middle. I'm going to try and make sure everybody sees everybody's sides. And in doing that, I wasn't taking a side, and I was causing more hurt than, and it's something I have to learn to try and stifle, because I don't know. I'm just, these are a lot of thoughts I'm having rolling around in my head.
Right. So you're thinking, oh gosh, if I hit that castle and knock down that castle wall, what is that person going to feel in their head? And I don't want to feel that myself. So I'm not going to do it.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing it back to games.
I'm similar.
Dangerously close.
I'm similar. I'm similar in nature. I'm very
in the other person's head. So what is it about a certain game that will let you short circuit that?
There are certain conflict games that don't. Something recently we played. Gosh, I wish I could remember now.
Too many games.
Typically, if it's a pure destruction thing that doesn't break down your whole game, right? Yeah. Or wreck. I just spent an hour doing this, and then you came along and did one little thing, and now I'm reset. That's the type of game I don't like. There was something I played recently that had conflict, and I think we talked about it on the show, the Alaboom show. Recent, can't remember it.
Well, I kind of get
different kind of conflicts.
I think of one that Jen and I enjoyed. I don't know if you played Atlas.
I've not played
Golden
that.
Egg Game.
I know it. Yeah.
It's a dude on a map. It's basically kind of fantasy chess kind of thing.
I know the answer.
The whole point is, before the game starts, you make custom characters with powers and stuff like that. And I remember actually digging it. And I remember thinking, why do we dig this? This is nothing but spending the whole time trying to ruin each other. But the thing is, all the building was done before the game started. And once the game was going, I was incapable. The only thing I could do to you playing a game like that was, I can't, Lance talks about it all the time. He loves kicking down people's sandcastles. Oh, you've worked so hard to build that. Let me ruin that. That's, I think, the real issue. If I don't want to prevent you from achieving what you have built. I love Heroes because you build things instead of kill things or chase things or whatever. If you talk about the verb, I like to build. And I don't want to ruin your opportunity to build. But in a game like this, or like Atlas, and there's so many others where, no, look, you already built your thing. If I don't give your thing a chance to clash against my thing, you built it for nothing. And that was a weird conflux of stuff, because that was not a game where you can, let's harvest more things and build up our defenses and all of that. Nope, it's just, hey, we've got these characters, they can run around, and sooner or later, I think, it was like there's power stones. People have to occupy a certain number of power stones or something like that.
Right.
I didn't say we liked it enough to come back to it over and over again. We'd still rather play Agricola or any game where we build instead of kill. But we were both surprised that we enjoyed that game, and kind of the way we used to enjoy Magic the Gathering before we got burned out on it.
Right, because the point of the game is only to eliminate the other player.
Yeah. On some level, if it's nothing more than a transfer of victory points, and that's that's what Magic the Gathering is. We both start with 20 victory points, and we're trying to, me doing 20 points of damage to you is functionally no different than me scoring 20 points for myself.
Right.
So in a game where it's just about that, I try. But the thing is, I'm still kind of, this is something that happened years ago. I don't think I would accept it now. When we first started, Jen loved Tigris and Euphrates. And I throw that out because I know it's one of your favorites of all time. Jen loved it to pieces. And I thought, well, this is neat. I guess we could play it some. But man, can't we just go back to making farms in Agricola? Wasn't that more fun? And as I realized, my expectations were, hey, you know what? Everything is Magic the Gathering and Warhammer. That's what all of gaming is. And Pandemic is a weird outlier. And Agricola is a weird outlier. I seem to find mostly all this other stuff. And, so I would begrudgingly go along with that stuff. But as the tide has shifted over the last decade. I mean, Euros are ascendant. Two-player gaming is ascendant. The stuff I love is ascendant. So I'm really at the right place at the right time. And the more I realize that's available to me, the less patience I have for something, because I don't need it anymore. Once upon a time, I thought that's what there was, and it's not. And I don't get anything out of that. And why spend time on something, even if it's like everybody keeps telling me, Rahdo, you got to play Scythe. You got to play Scythe. The number of times I've played Scythe and never once fired a shot with my mech. It's awesome. It's like, yeah, the mech is still there though. It's always a threat. It's always in the back. You have to
always think it's going to hit you. Yeah.
Yeah.
You look for your opportunities to hit others. At least that's the way I've played it.
Or at least even if you never get a chance to, that's because the existence of your mech means your opponent is not able to do what they really want to do. They can't stockpile stuff. They can't leave it unprotected. They have to invest in defenses because I exist, because I am literally a gun that has been put on the table. I'm not firing the gun. My hand's not even on the gun, but the gun is on the table. That's going to affect the entire dinner party. And that's the way I look.
Yeah. That's a good analogy there. Actually, I like that. Scythe is one of the ones where I don't mind the attacking. That's personally. The other game I was trying to remember, and I remembered it, is PAX Premier.
That PAX Premier was so good.
There's so much interesting things in that game that I don't feel like it's always like. I mean, you kind of are always either it's sort of a zero-sum game. Like anything that I can do to help myself might hurt someone else, might also help somebody else, but also I don't know. It didn't feel. I always feel like in my group, like if I feel like I need to target somebody, I always target one particular player because he's such a good player. This game, I didn't do that. We just did it all random. Like it was always like, what's best for me instead of which person can I hit to knock back a little bit. So that brought me out of that feeling.
That's a big difference too. Every game is implicitly less mean when you have multiple players.
Sure.
Every game's cutthroatedness increases by 70% as soon as there's only one other player. Because, I could be a dick in Scythe and just keep trying to mess with you, but all that's doing is slowing you down and slowing me down. And the person who's out of it, they're going to win. Yeah. So I can't just lightly attack. But in a two-player game, everything I do to slow you down directly speeds me up by, the zero-sum nature of it. So that's the thing I think people don't realize when they say Rahdo's so Care Bear. You might be too if you only ever played games two-player, maybe. I am weird to play Small World with, though. I'm very strange there.
You do like Small World?
I'm very Small World was a game I discovered early on, not to play with Jen. We played it a couple times, and it's not at its best with two. I think anybody would agree with that. It works, but you really want a big group of people.
Right.
But I played it a lot at work with my coworkers when we were working on Brink at Splash Damage. And I became known as the guy who never really seemed to be much of a threat, was never really in it, and somehow always convinced everybody, look, you really should be focusing on Matt over there. Matt's the trouble. Didn't you see what he just did last turn?
Yeah.
I know you can't see how many points, but you saw what he did. And I'm just over here quietly with my hoodie up, just plugging along, not really bothering nobody. And I would have a tendency to win. It was very strange that I played the room more than I played the game.
Yeah. That's one of my least favorite things in gaming. Metagame. Okay. The metagame. That little game above the game where it's like you have to evaluate who's going to win or lose, and you have to play that game, and the talking about it and the politicizing of why you should do certain things, and politicking is really the right word.
Yes.
To get someone to do something for you. That's the game I do not like, because I always fall into these traps of being very persuaded. I know my weakness. I remember a game of the Game of Thrones game.
Yes.
I don't know if you ever played that one. Like that
one,
I was suckered into the death trap very quickly. That's why I won't play like diplomacy type games, or never going to play Game of Thrones again or any of that stuff. And Civilization is another one.
It's not that you have any predisposition against it. You just know it's a weakness.
It's a weakness, yeah, for sure.
If you could wheel and deal and outfox everybody, you would be attracted to it, do you think? I mean, people like to do things they're good at. I mean, that's just human nature.
But it always feels like a swindling kind of thing where I'm like, how good I am at lying to you or tricking you. I don't like that nature of things, because that can extend into life too. And then I'm like, well, do I really trust that person when they're really good at persuading me to do something in a game? And then, so I had a weird question. I don't even know if this makes sense. It made sense in my head when I thought of it. And this is a sucky question. I don't know, maybe but
your last one was too, but it was a good conversation anyway.
Do you think that the stuff we're doing with these games is like giving ourselves enough happiness in our brains until we die? Like we found something that we can do just till we die and be happy with it?
Yes.
Or
here's the deal.
Yep.
I have an answer to this question. I'll let you finish it.
Well, I had or is it something more deep than that? Is it a superficial brain tingling thing that we like to do and just gets us like, I can keep doing this and stay happy enough till I die? Or am I really getting deep feelings?
Is it candy or is it a proper meal?
There you go. You summarized my question way better. Is it empty calories or is it a proper fulfilling life?
That's an interesting question. That was not the question I was going to answer though.
Okay.
Because I have a very strong, passionate response to what I thought you were asking.
Oh, what do you think?
It has to do with Wall-E of all things.
Wall-E, yes.
The Pixar film.
The movie, yes. Okay.
Yes, because I don't understand people's response to that movie. Those astronauts, those people on that cruise ship, they were living
happy as F.
It was the best. It was true. It is the ultimate
true bliss.
goal that our
True bliss.
society should be moving towards. It's why I so strongly support Andrew Yang and UBI, because people should be freed from the shackles of, well, if I'm not a worthwhile person unless I'm producing stuff. You know what? Why isn't producing happiness deemed a valuable life goal? Just making yourself fulfilled, learning, knowledge, spreading joy to others. Why aren't these things that we value as a society? Why isn't the first question you ever ask somebody the first time you meet them, why isn't it, what do you do for fun? That should be the question we ask everybody, instead of what do you do for work? Yeah. Because that is how we define our worth as human beings, and it's backwards. It's wrong. So with that aside, obviously I'm a big proponent of play. I'm a big proponent of, if it makes you happy, it can't be that bad. There are people who are implicitly driven, quite frankly, because of their brain chemistry, because a combination of their brain chemistry and the circumstances of their rearing. That means, you know what? If you are not satisfied playing Fortnite 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you need something more, that's great. That's great. Go pursue it. Split the atom, or figure out this whole Schrodinger's box thing for once and for all. Please, somebody crack that quantum mechanics code. Great. More power to you. Please don't look down on me if my brain chemistry, because we're all just biological machines, if my brain chemistry combined with the circumstances of my upbringing have embedded in me the idea that I can find fulfillment and joy and satisfaction from playing Agricola, from playing World of Warcraft, from watching movies, from spending endless hours debating the merits of Star Wars: The Last Jedi. If that's what makes you happy, dude, I'm so happy that you found what makes you happy. And I don't look down on you at all just because I happen to be a hardcore driven Wall Street person who thinks I'm not really achieving anything unless I've made my first million by 25. Hey, I don't judge you for that. Don't judge me for this. We have to disconnect this crazy Puritan work ethic. This is certainly something I've been working on with Jen for our entire marriage, because she epitomizes that. She feels worthless if she is not generating and producing things in real life. And I generally feel like, wow, that sounds like a lot of work, honey. Are you sure? Wouldn't you rather just sit down and play a game? That will be fulfilling and satisfying too, for me at least, because I'm spending time with you, and I'm exercising my brain, and I'm staving off Alzheimer's, and and all the rest of it. So I think, to your real question, I think it's what people make of it. Basically, I think hey, some people just need a little popcorn, need a little candy, and that's great. And some people define themselves by their love for some really deep, crazy GMT war game. And that's great. If you could do that and you could find somebody else who defines themselves, because we are fast approaching as a society, or I should say, we who are lucky enough to be in the Western world are fast approaching, what's it called? The point where, I want to say substance abuse, but that's wrong, although we have all those problems. The point where our society has effectively limitless resources, functionally.
Right.
I mean, if you look at the progression of agriculture and how many people it took to bring in, I don't know, whatever XDY amount of corn versus how many people it takes today, and you project where that's going to go, it will come sooner than later. Jobs are going to continue to disappear. It's going to be tougher and tougher. And we have to rewire our sense of self-worth. We have to recognize that somebody saying, what do you do for fun, is a great opening question. Because honestly, it's genuinely more interesting. Wouldn't you rather talk about something that somebody is passionate about, that fills their life with joy, than instead, well, what do you do to make sure you don't starve to death? That's the question that we ask each other, because we're all brainwashed. And I think normalizing games, I think this is something a lot of people, I was talking about my podcast earlier, a lot of people early on would write questions to Jen. What did I do to convert her into a gamer? What can I do to convert it's usually wife, we'll say spouse, but it's usually wife. And, Jen had a go-to answer for this. And I was really impressed by it, because it was very eye-opening to me. She would explain, and of course she's coming from her own perspective. There's no 100% universal truths here, but she would talk about how her life experience is women are reared in fundamentally different ways with different expectations than men. And one of them is, look, you are the head of the household. Whether we value it or not on a societal level, you are the serious one. You are the one that keeps everything going. You are the ones that make sure the kids are okay. You are the one that makes sure everything is working. And you're the one who, you don't have time to sit down and relax, because you've got to be worrying about all these high level things. And, it's ingrained in little girls when they are given, and I don't know if this happens anymore, the easy bake oven. And, the wet my Barbie baby doll, because it's training you how to be a certain thing. Whereas what we are given is toy soldiers and Tonka trucks and all of that. Of course, this is something that I think society at large is aware, and there's so many wonderful initiatives to try to break those stereotypes and, STEM for girls and all that. That's great. But, Jen was talking from her life experience and her sister's life experience and her mother's life experience, that her answer to people saying this is, what you have to do if you want your wife to be able to enjoy games the way you do is you have to give her the space. She would say this so much better than me. You have to give her the confidence, the space, the support to let it all go. Because in her experience, you can never let it go. There's always another problem. There's always another thing that needs to be taken care of. Your home life is your work life. You don't go off to an office and then come back home. Of course, these are all very stereotypical things, but again, this was very, very true for Jen. And it's something that she said she appreciates in me, that I actively try to, I was talking about this earlier, actively try to, it's maybe kind of aggressive a little bit, but subvert her need to constantly be working and say, honey, it's okay. We're doing all right. You can rest. You can relax. Just stop thinking about it. Don't think about it for a week. It'll be fine. Whatever the problem is that, is just weighing on her that prevents her from just being able to veg. It is work for Jen to veg. And I think that is something that if you have a spouse and you love it and you just can't seem to understand, well, why can't you invest in this? That might be a place to start looking. I've so gone off into the weeds. I don't remember what.
I don't remember what my question was.
Oh
no, it was the candy. Is it candy?
Yes.
Is it candy, or is it empty calories, or is it fulfilling?
Yeah, I think it has the potential to be. I think I can certainly say it is very fulfilling for me. It is the most fulfilling thing. I'm so glad I discovered it. It is the most fulfilling thing I do in my life, sharing this joy with the most important person in the world to me. Jen and I, we're very different people. She likes to garden. I have tried so hard to enjoy gardening with her, and I just can't do it. I like Quentin Tarantino films. She has tried really hard and she is just not into it. But there's a game for everybody. And we have found many, many games that we can share, and it gives her the opportunity to turn off and just focus on silly, fluffy stuff. But I don't think that's silly and fluffy. I think that's good for the soul.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Do you feel guilty of your position that you are in the board game world?
Do you mean my success?
Like your success? Yeah. Do you feel any guilt about it? Like, it's very hard to do what you've done in the specific industry.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're probably one of a kind.
I was in the right place at the right time. So
that's what it was.
So was Brad Pitt, and so was Meryl Streep. You know, this industry is the same as going off to Hollywood with dreams of making it big on the silver screen, and 1 in 50,000 actually lands. I was in the right place at the right time. I'll tell you one thing that was a huge boost for me early on in my first year, when I was just kind of, well, let's just give this a try. I got an iPhone. What the heck? I've got some games laying around. I'm not making video games anymore because I retired. Although that lasted for all of 3 months before I moved on to the next project.
I have a question about that, actually.
Yeah, okay, we'll come back to it.
We'll come back to that.
Yeah, so I was just messing around, and it was Tasty Minstrel Games Ground Floor by designer David Short. It was on Kickstarter. And I was thinking, I don't know if I want to back it. And I was really surprised. He said, look, download it and print it out and play it for yourself. That's much more common these days. That was really weird at the time.
Yeah.
And so I did. And Jen and I played it. And I thought, oh, well, why don't I film it? I had no expectations. I thought nobody would care because it was ugly as heck, but it turned out people really appreciated it. And I instantly fell in love with the idea of, wow, I should cover Kickstarter games. There is no greater help, no greater aid to people than at that moment when they are totally in the dark, trying to make a decision, if I can help them. Because obviously I'm very subjective in my final thoughts, which are usually pretty positive. I try to be very objective in the run through, which is where I think the real value of what I do is. But anyway, long story short, I did that. I put it up. It was pretty successful. But then the writer, I forget their names, Jerry from Penny Arcade.
Yes.
Jerry. Whatever his name is. He saw that video completely randomly, because it's not like this was early days. People didn't realize, put a video on our Kickstarter page. Nobody does that. But somehow he found my video and he posted in his daily blog next to the Penny Arcade comic, boy, I'm really glad I stumbled across this random video. It helped me decide whether I should buy. And he was really posting about Ground Floor, and he just had a link to my video. And I can go back. That was a huge spike. That was a monster. I was just like, just kind of a little boink.
Yeah.
You
got touched by the hand.
Yes. And that gave me such a jolt. And, obviously it went back down, but, that really cemented me. So I'm the first to recognize if that hadn't happened, I was just a loud motor mouth with really low rent production values. But I think a certain amount of charisma, I think I mostly just, kind of scraped by on that, because I'm literally cribbing a character I played in a high school play musical. So I guess, do I feel guilty because I look at other channels?
Well, do you feel guilty
that I know are
are
objectively superior to me?
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. In terms of their production, in terms of their messaging, in terms of their discipline, I'm so undisciplined. I am so unprofessional. But, I just found it's easier to say, screw it. I'm unprofessional. I'll own it. But I think that gives me a certain disarming naturalness that some people like, some people hate. So I look at other channels and wow, you've got 500 subscribers. You've got 1,000 subscribers. You should be doing better than me. I don't know if I'm telling the truth on that last bit. I'll be honest. I do think I'm actually really good at what I do. I won't fake brag or humble it away. I do think and I appreciate it's not for everybody, but if you like what I do, I'm really good at it. Starting with that play in high school that forced me out of my shell and always ready to, tap dance and talk and be entertaining. Leading to college. My first job in college was doing phone surveys during the, the I think it was the, I'd have to look. It was during some presidential election. Was it Clinton versus, yeah, it must have been. It must have been.
It was Bush. Yeah.
Yeah. And versus Bush Sr. And that was me having to get on the phone every night for hours and try, because I wouldn't get paid if I didn't find a way to get people to talk to me on the phone so I could answer these questions, so it could go in, the New York Times or whatever that we were, booked to do that. And so I learned a lot about how to get through to people very quickly. I then went on to work for Nintendo for 3 years, mostly as a gameplay counselor. And what did I do there? Talk on the phone for people for 8 hours a day.
That's a skill.
Often were calling me in tears, literal tears, because they were so frustrated that they couldn't get past, Bowser or whatever it was in whatever game, and trying to talk them down, be a shoulder to lean on, and get them through that really tough stuff. Then where so I'm just continuing to build these skills that I think manifest in Rahdo runs through. I go, and I'm a junior designer. I'm doing my Rahdo thing, but ultimately through a bit of luck, I end up being lead designer on Siphon Filter. And like, oh my gosh, I'm terrified. I'm like 26. I don't know what I'm doing. I talk a good game. I'm very fast on my feet. I can answer questions by coming up with something on the fly if I need to, but I don't know what I'm doing. And they hired John Garvin, who went on to be my ultimate nemesis. He was the lead artist. I was the lead designer. He was 10 years older than me, much more experienced than me. And I think he resented the fact that I was his equal in terms of the hierarchy, and we had to compromise his art versus my design. And oh man, I was swimming with sharks and I didn't know what I was doing. And it was sink or swim. And I had to learn to fight in a positive, productive, upbeat way, but to to defend tooth and nail what I need to do. And, and that was calling on everything I'd ever done before. And that led to 20 years making video games. And you've worked in video games long enough to know a lead designer is really nothing more than a cheerleader. Just, hey, everybody, let's go this way. Let me explain it to you, and you, and you, and you. Oh, that's really interesting. I like what you're saying there. If we can do it, I'll try to do it. If we can't, I'll make you be the one to come out and admit, yeah, we can't do it because I don't want to shut anybody down. And I ended up doing that for 20 years. And so I have been living Rahdo Runs Through for a long time and honing it because my career relied on my ability to communicate. Never mind the fact my major in the University of Washington was scientific and technical communication, which means I was training to interact with engineers and convert what they say into normal speak. And what do I do now? I spend all day long reading rule books, and I don't know what is wrong with our industry that we still take all of our inspiration for rule books from engineering texts. That's the basis of most structures of rule books, and it drives me nuts because it does not address how human beings learn and communicate. And so few rulers get it. Vlada Chvátil gets it, but most don't. And so it's just this weird combination of stuff that has allowed me to be, I think, the best in the world at the very strange, oddball thing that I do. So to answer your question, I feel like I would feel guilty. It was like, because I can recognize people do stuff so much better than me, but I don't think they do what makes me special better than me. So I don't feel guilty about the fact that I am more successful. I wish everybody could be successful. It was really interesting bringing on my first contributor to the channel, Shay Parker. I don't know if you've watched any of his videos. He's done 4 so far.
Yep.
He did his first run through. He thought he knew how I do stuff, and he did his first run through. It was 20 minutes long for Call to Adventure, if I recall. Yeah. And I sent him a 90-minute critique of his 20-minute video. Literally like pausing every 5 seconds, recording myself watching, saying, okay, here's what I would have done at this phase, and here's why. And I would go into really, and this was weird. I never articulated any of this. I didn't really think about it. I just do it instinctually, but actually having to articulate why it's so important. I had to articulate why I generally don't play all the way to the end. I think there's a strong psychological impact. Most people who do run-throughs play all the way to the end. I don't think they're doing themselves any favors. I think there is a strength in the cliffhanger, in the leaving them wanting more, in the not overstaying your welcome. I try when I'm doing a run-through to judge, how far can I push? Okay, I think if I keep going, it's gonna drag on. Let's get out now. And a lot of little things like that. And to his credit, oh my God, he blew me away on his second one, which is now what is posted on the channel. He totally got it. He totally nailed it. And and honestly, he makes me wonder, maybe I'm not so special after all. I'll have to wait till I see if I can find a third person who can do it.
Do you think if you released that 90-minute video, would it help everybody, or would it take away what's special about you? Do you have like secrets, like you don't want to like?
No, I would have no problem with that at all. It's actually interesting. The reason I actually brought on Shay was not because I was jonesing to take on more work. If you've gotten anything from me, I'm lazy and I want less work. I have a friend named Andrew who's been after me for years to take Rahdo Runs Through seriously. Like Rodney takes his channel seriously. Tom takes his channel seriously. I was always just bouncing off the wall and just making it up as I went along. And he's like, no, you are successful enough that you can get sponsorships if you want. You can get contributors if you want. And I, for years, have pushed Andrew away saying, no, I just don't want to do it. That's not me. And eventually he broke me down and said, okay, well, you do it. And he went off to the races. He spent a couple of months studying every single channel, every single content creator. And he brought me Shay and said, I've studied everybody. And Shay doesn't do what you do, but I think he could do what you do. Because he's a trained improvisational actor in Hollywood, and he had this one video about how he teaches games. I'm like, wow, okay, let's give him a try. So anyway, Andrew watched that video, and his response the next day, because I posted and I sent it to both of them, his response is, oh my God, I just watched a, what are those things you see on ads for Facebook that you can get Martin Scorsese to teach you how to?
Yeah, Masterclass.
Yeah. He said, oh, that's what you did. You totally did that. You could totally sell this. And my first thought, okay.
You did a masterclass in how to do a game run through.
And how to do what I do and why, every single thing I do. And here's the only reason I haven't done it. And this is, I don't know, maybe obviously I run a Patreon now, and the majority of why I'm able to do what I'm doing and make it a career instead of having to go back to the video game industry, which now that I live in America, I would totally have to do because, geez, that is me censoring myself about healthcare costs in this country.
In America. Yeah.
It's so maddening after living in Europe for 2 decades, or 15 years, something like that.
Close enough.
And I don't want to go back. So I started taking it again, much more. That was one of the reasons. Okay, Andy, I don't want to have to go back to my old life. I want to keep doing this because I thought it'd be cheaper to live here. No, it's crazy expensive to live here. Anyway, compared to Malta. Oh man, so cheap.
Yeah.
So what was I saying? So he saw it. And anyway, I have Patreon backers every month. If you give me $2 a month, I will give you a video that only you get to see if you back me at $2 a month, that I will try so hard to make sure it is worth it. I have done videos for my backers like, if you had $500, what games would you buy to start a collection? That would be a video that I think people would love to see. It's for my backers only. I went on ahead and I posted it for them. So they got to see it just as kind of I think for most of them, it's just like, oh, that's really interesting to see the philosophy behind Rahdo's stuff. And I realized the second I did that, I'd be breaking a trust if I actually made that public, because honestly, my gut reaction is to make it public. I guess if anybody wants, now that I've made a big deal out of it, if any content creators want, I'll share it with them if they don't make it public, because I basically made a promise to all my backers. Look, you guys give me $2 a month. And I said these will be exclusives. So it's an exclusive to you. Of course, if anybody wants to see it, it's just $2 once. $2 and you will get 100 hours easily of behind the scenes stuff. All the video about how I film everything, all my equipment. That video that I critiqued Shay, poor Shay. I don't think I told him I was going to do that. I don't even know if he knows I did that because he doesn't give me $2 a month. So I guess so maybe that's the way I can have my cake and eat it too, because it's there if anybody wants it and it'll cost you $2 once. So in that regard, it's a really cheap masterclass video. I
also know Shay does games that you have turned down, I guess.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Well, that was that was the original thinking that, obviously by choice, I say no. I mean, I self-censor. Doesn't support 2 players? Pass. Take that, pass. Party game, pass. Memory requirements, pass. Stop putting memory in board games. Nobody likes it. Stop doing it.
Little kids like them.
But he much more omnivorous than me, hugely so. And I do think I think I do my audience a disservice that they would never see Twilight Imperium. That nobody out there is going to do a Rahdo runs through style presentation, crazy gonzo off the wall that focuses less on gameplay and proper rules explanation and more on what does it feel like, because that's what it's all about. What does it feel like? Get you in as fast as you can and articulate with some very specific focuses what mental processes you go through, because at the end of the day, the gameplay is not picking this up and moving it. That is not the game. The game is choosing which of these cards and articulating why I would choose this one instead of this one, which should be deadly dull. But if you can do it in the right way, I think my success proves it's compelling. Yeah. Not for everybody. A lot of people
not
can't
for everybody.
Stand it.
It's super hard to.
I'm very scatterbrained. Yeah, but not everybody likes Rodney. Not everybody likes Tom. Nothing is.
There's no one shoe fits all here. One size fits all.
Is there a one shoe fits all?
Is there a one size fits all?
I don't know. I mean, what would be the truly universal?
Maybe tabletop was. I never really heard a harsh word about tabletop.
You're right. Tabletop is close. I would say the only thing that maybe kept tabletop from that, aside from personality conflicts, which honestly I would have been happy to leave all that between them, but. It was, I so enjoyed that show. If I ever get a chance to
I loved it. Yeah,
I will bow down to him. He's done so much good. But they were all very on, and sometimes it was like a little over animated, And I didn't have a problem with it all, but I do know some people were put off. Wow, they all feel like they're being fake. And I guess
that's the biggest criticism, and it was acting.
Heightened. Yeah, they were being heightened because, hey, most of them were actors or, want to be actors.
I mean, what do you expect? It's Hollywood. They were doing the thing.
Exactly. So I understand that. But except for that, you're right. I think that's probably as close as we ever got. And, well, hey, it's proven. I mean, nobody ever gets
believe me, like BGG went – we went nuts during that time.
Oh, probably, yeah.
I give a lot to tabletop. We grew big that year and the years following.
So tabletop was your Penny Arcade mention.
Oh, I meant to tell you about Penny Arcade. I have a funny story. Yeah, okay. Is it funny? I don't know. It's sad to me. Their very first comic was Sin, making fun of it.
The very first one.
The very first comic is the video game I worked on.
What?
Yeah. So the guy in the comic hangs himself because there was a bug that we shipped that would made the game load twice or 5 times as long as it should have loaded.
Oh.
And the guy hung himself, and I was like, when I saw this, I'm like, oh, now I'm gonna hang myself. Like. Because you take 5 years or several years of work. Those guys had worked on it for years before I got there. I worked solid 2 years, crunch time for the whole time, shipped the game, and then the first cool thing I see from a cool person was a guy hanging himself, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's great.
Yeah,
but that's the internet,
and that sets the tone.
It sets the tone.
Yeah, I mean, that's the equivalent of working hard on Hawaii, and Tom throws it in the garbage. And I'm very happy.
Oh, similarly, yes.
Yeah, that I think Tom, for a long time, just didn't want to hear it, but finally did recognize that, for him, it was a quick joke, no big deal, all yucks, but it hurts. Yeah, it hurts hard.
It hurts some people.
Yeah.
One of my coworkers, Don McCaskill, who now owns Flickr, by the way, and
oh wow.
He framed it and put it in his office. He works in he still works in San Jose or something like that, and framed it. Don McCaskill worked at Ritual for a while, and then he went on to I don't know what I'm drawing. I use his system. It's a photo storage system, which I can't remember the name of right now on the spot. But they acquired Flickr.
BoardGameGeek?
No. I'm just saying, like, the coworker who I worked with framed it and has it in his office, like, massively huge. And I'm like, I'm not going to frame that. In
fact, the Penny Arcade.
Yeah, the Penny Arcade first comic ever, right? Anyway. Before I forget this question,
I've been there too.
Yeah. You got criticisms on
all time on EGM on the cover. Yeah. That's what it said.
Yep, the Busby.
Yeah, Bubsy. Yeah,
Bubsy.
My first game. Whee!
I don't know if I know the answer to this question, but I couldn't remember. How did you get into lead designer at 26? because normally, unless you start the company,
yes,
the lead designer is not handed out like candy.
My whole life is a series of right place at the right times. So the situation is, I get a job as a junior designer on Bubsy 3D. I work on some of the boss design, a little bit of just a little bit of everything, just trying to pick up the slack where Mike Berlin, who is the lead designer and co-founder of the company, he was an ex-Infocom guy. Eidetic was founded by two Infocom guys, Mark Blank, the creator of Zork, and Mike Berlin, the creator of Suspended and a bunch of other really classic Infocom games. And Mike, at one point in Accolade, did a Sonic the Hedgehog clone called Bubsy 3D, or Bubsy Claws Encounters of the Third Kind. So they got the rights, or they got the contract to bring it into 3D. This was years before we understood what 3D platformers were. Do you remember Jumping Jack Flash? Does anybody remember Jumping Jack Flash?
Loved it. 3D
Jumping
platformer.
Jack Flash was cool, and that was our competition in our heads. We thought, oh yeah, Jumping Jack Flash. We just got to beat that.
Yeah.
And we did not know what was coming. And we shipped a couple of weeks or a month or whatever after Mario 64 and Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah.
We were looking back.
So they were your Half-Life.
Naughty Dog was looking forward.
Yeah.
So obviously that was sad, sad times. Although still, I would put us up against Jumping Jack Flash any day of the week. If we could have shipped 6 months earlier, oh, what a different story it would have been. But so that almost destroys us as a company. And I do think it was the stuff you were talking about, it was such a huge blow on Mike. Because he must have been in his 40s or maybe early 50s at that point. And he kind of lost some excitement for it. By hook or by crook, we got the license for Siphon Filter. Mike was still going to be the lead designer. He was basically the chief creative officer. Not that those terms existed at the time in the industry because we were still too young. I mean, because there's no chief creative officer when there's like 15 people, and that's the whole team. It'd be ridiculous. So he was just the lead designer, but also the co-founder. And I was still the junior designer, and he was working on it. And man, Siphon Filter would have been such an insanely different game. But I was dogged. John Garvin, the guy I mentioned before, who would become my nemesis, although we're great friends now, we were both dogged. And I don't know what went on behind the scenes, but eventually Mike decided, yeah, I'm done. I'm done. This industry has chewed me up. It spat me out. I'm going to go off into the sunset, and I'm going to invent ebooks. And that's what he went to do. Wow. He made an ebook publisher in 1996. So sadly, he was a little bit ahead of the curve.
A little bit ahead of his time.
Yeah. I have no idea what ultimately happened. I loved him. He gave me so much.
Probably got acquired. Probably got acquired.
So. I hope so.
At some point.
He deserved all the success in the world because as I was a junior designer, I was very passionate, and I wore him down on a daily basis by just hitting him like this. And he was so great because he would listen and he would listen and he'd put up his hand and say, "You've convinced me." And that just gave me such the warm tinglies. I didn't always, but when he said, "You've convinced me," I was like, yes. So anyway, he was still the lead, but he left. And there was no one else. And they had all heard me just talk nonstop, very confidently, for a year and a half about the way everything should be. He said, "Okay, give it to the kid. What else are we going to do?"
Give it to the kid.
Yep. So they gave it to the kid. And like I said, I don't think that John cared for that. Why didn't you give it to me? I've been here for 10 years. I made Cyberstorm. Remember Cyberstorm from Dynamics? He was from Crystal, or not Crystal.
I remember
Dynamics.
the name, but I don't remember the game.
Yeah, it was a Warcraft clone with mechs. It was good. And it wasn't Crystal D. What was it? I can't remember.
Crystal Dynamics?
No, it wasn't Crystal D. That was down in Southern California.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's all in one ear and out the other now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just totally lucky. I was just, and here's the deal. I was not the only junior designer at Eidetic, but I was the only one that survived the callings. The callings after our first project got canceled, so that all hands on Bubsy. Forget about Jumper, which would have been such an amazing game. And so a lot of people, disappeared as a result of that. And then Bubsy, of course. So then more people disappeared, and somehow I kept holding on, and by doing this, and it fell into my lap. It's a good question.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was no universal answer. There was no full sale back then.
Right. Nobody was taught how to make video. The best way I was taught was sitting at a desk next to two lead programmers at Ritual Entertainment Eventually, they got tired of me asking questions, and they said, "Figure it out." I got about 2 weeks of asking questions. And they're like, "You know what? You need to figure it out now." I'm like, "Oh yeah, okay, I'll figure it out."
Yep.
I got 2 weeks of training. So when you retired?
Yes, you did it. Well, so you want to come back to that? Okay.
What year did you retire?
Okay. It was, well, I can look it up with the old powers of Wikipedia, because it would have been a year after Brink shipped. Wikipedia, Brink. I can type Wikipedia. Brink is a video game, a first-person shooter developed by Splash Damage, and it came out in 2011. So I decided to retire in probably early 2012. Brink, hey, my first game ever was something I was very passionate about and landed with a thud. My last game ever was something I was even more passionate about, Brink, and landed with a thud. Although I'm still so proud of that game. That is the best thing I have ever done creatively in my life. And I think it is, even to this day, it is ahead of the curve. But that's not why it failed. It failed because Bethesda effed us. And I could go on that at great length. But that's for another time, perhaps, because I don't want to get anybody in trouble at Splash Damage. Although I think very few people are still there from when I was there.
Does it even still exist?
Yeah. They're doing, they basically do multiplayer add-ons for Gears of War and stuff like that now.
Okay.
Because they've got their niche. Anyway, though.
Did you get paid for Brink? Like, did you make money off Brink? Did you get a bonus?
Brink was a sales success.
Sales success,
Brink was the most hyped game of the year. People at E3 and Cologne and all of the big game conventions all around the world would literally wait hours to play one session and then would get right back in line.
Wow.
We were the most highly acclaimed shooter ever prior to launch because we got so many Game of Show awards. Because I'll say it, it's an amazing freaking game. It's got problems, and I will certainly take my fair share for some of the problems. But at the end of the day, it crashed and burned because the Bethesda testing department, you would probably know better than me. Yeah. They were doing some kind of new form of testing that didn't require actually playing the game, and it was more about statistical analysis.
Right.
And maybe you know what this is. I didn't understand at the time. What do you mean? What? They're not.
Yeah.
What? And apparently they had some really super duper high tech piece of kit to test load bearing balances and all that kind of stuff
on servers. It was a multiplayer game, right?
To replicate that. And apparently they didn't know how to use it. And we launched in a completely unplayable state, and we had no idea. Because hey, it worked on our network, and they say it works with all their emulation, and it didn't. Like within 2 weeks, we had patched it, but the damage was done. Because everybody, you can't release a multiplayer shooter that you can't play online. So, yeah. But anyway, still, I'm very proud of it. Yeah. But went from that to, the lead up before. I mean, I didn't really work on Brink for the last 3 months. Neil and Ed took over all the design stuff because I was on the road because everybody knew we were going to be the greatest thing ever. And we were talking to everybody. We were talking to Hollywood companies. I spent a week in a room with Christopher Nolan and his wife and his brother, talking about Inception, because we were going to do Inception, the video game, using the Brink system for melding single player and multiplayer. It was amazing. And we spent a lot of time out at Disney pitching the continuation of Marvel's Secret Wars. And so it was really exciting. And then Brink dropped. And of course, it failed. But by then, we'd already signed with Disney to do Secret Wars. And I was very excited about that because Inception fell through, which was a whole nother insane fiasco. But I was happy because I'm a lifelong Marvel kid. And the idea that we were going to make a game that was literally canon with the ongoing Marvel Comics universe. Because at this point, the cinematic universe hadn't really taken off yet. The Marvel guys were telling us, believe me, you won't believe what Guardians of the Galaxy is going to be. It's going to destroy the industry. It's going to be so amazing. I'm like, Rocket Raccoon?
Yeah, really? Yeah.
Really? You're insane. And we'll get them in the expansion pack. It'll be fine. Just because, man, well, of course we were wrong. Yeah, but Brink was a stumbling block, but I was so giddily high because I was getting to make my ultimate game, my masterpiece, everything I'd worked for. I was working with Greg Pak, the comics writer of Planet Hulk and World War Hulk. At the time he was and he still is one of the hottest writers in the industry. We were going to tie in with our storyline was going to affect the Marvel comics universe. Something I could touch that thing I've loved since I was a little kid. And then new executives came in at Disney and said, "Hey, you know how I can make a name for myself by canceling this expensive game and saving us a lot of money
and saving millions of dollars."
Yes. And so boom, we were gone overnight.
Like a click. Wow.
Yeah.
You got snapped.
Yes. Oh my gosh. We literally got dusted.
You got snapped.
Wow.
You got dusted.
I've never even thought about that.
Well,
yes, you're right.
There you go. You can have that one for free.
Yep. And at that point I realized, okay, I am done.
That's a crusher.
I'm not gonna recover from this.
And these executives, they don't understand what they've done.
Yeah.
Right. They like cut a thing and you're like, you cut my arm off or more, like my soul.
Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, Splash did okay. I stayed on long enough to help them sign with, I guess Warner Brothers, because they ended up doing the multiplayer for, I forget, Batman Arkham 2 or Arkham, I guess it must have been Arkham 3. Working with Rocksteady, because Rocksteady was in London, we were in London. So I got that off the ground and said, okay, and I'm done. I'm out. I can't. My heart is broken and I can't do it anymore. And so that's why I retired in, I guess it must have been 2012. Because at that point, I mean, what our plan was, there are cheap places you can live. We were basically going to go and find a place in Wales, which is just, it's first world living with like third world cost of living. We'd have to put up with a lot of rainbow. Hey, we lived in Seattle for years. We'd be fine with that. And that was our plan. And UGM was really nervous about it, but we figured, because I mean, you worked in the video game industry. I'm sure you had plenty of coworkers who had their Ferraris and had their Humvees. Yeah. Any success we ever had just went right back into savings. Jen was an incredible financial manager, and she felt that I think I was 45 or 46, we could make a go of it if we move out to a place where the cost of living is very, very low, and we continue to live the cheap and meager spendthrift existence that we currently lived, because the numbers added up. She was scared, but she said, okay, I know how tired you are, because she knew how tired I was and how heartbroken I was. Let's give it a try. Her fear was me being home all day, puttering around, driving her nuts. Because she had been home by herself working on glass, and prior to that, graphic design. She thought it might tear us apart. But another thing that pulled me out, that made it hard for me to continue going, was I had, by that point, discovered Pandemic and Agricola and everything else. I was actually bringing a lot of board game designs into that Secret Wars game. Actually, I was so inspired by trying to bridge the gap. And that was really cool.
So you found the board games before you retired.
Yes. And it was one of the things that kind of made me realize, okay, I officially have no passion for this anymore. I mean, ever since I was 4 years old in the early 70s, in 72, 73, and I realized I could beat my dad at playing Pong. This is something I'm better at than my father, who was a god to me. And I figured I'd play video games for the rest of my life. And I did, up until I met Matt Leacock in plastic form, until his game fell into my lap and it changed everything. And you changed everything, because that could have been an aberrant, and I could have just, that was an interesting experiment. Let's go back to playing co-op games on the PS3. We could have done that, but BoardGameGeek was there for me and helped me through. Where was I going with this? Oh, yeah. So that was our plan. Yeah. And like I said, we'd have to be spendthrifty. The only thing I was not spendthrifty about at the time I retired was I was paying $3,000 or $4,000 or pounds a year on board games by that point. I was in deep. I was totally hooked, and I did not want to stop that. And Jen says, yeah, you're going to have to stop that. You're just going to have to make do with these 50 games. That's going to have to be good enough. Right. And quite frankly, it should have been. But I'm like, no.
Most people.
Yeah. You know what? Tom Vassell, they send him games. All he does is get on camera and talk about them. Maybe if I do that, they'll send me games. I was totally mercenary. And I want to retire, but I still want to have all the games. And that's why I started doing it. And then next thing you know, 3 months later, I got a job offer to go to Malta. And we can't. If somebody pays you to go move and live in Malta in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea, how can you say no to that? So we did that. That exploded. spectacularly.
So you were unretired to move there.
I unretired to move there. Was on that project for 9 months and had an acrimonious leaving. And then we realized, you know how we were going to move to Wales? It's even cheaper living here. If you want to go live somewhere cheap in the world, and if you have a EU passport, which with Brexit I might not for much longer, but if you have an EU passport, if you live far away from the tourist areas of Malta, that's one of the cheapest places in the world to live. And again, first world accommodations. You won't lack for anything. But I mean, you've probably seen video of that apartment we lived at, literally right across from the ocean.
Across from the sea.
That was, I forget, that was like 500 euros a month rent.
Okay.
It was insane.
Was it a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom?
It was a 2-bedroom, yeah. A 2-bedroom, and what was unique about it was a big backyard, which is unheard of. The Maltese do not have yards. That's not normally a thing. But we had a yard so Jen could have her chickens. And we realized, oh, well, hey, that thing we're going to do in Wales, we can do it here. Let's just stay. And yeah, you can go back, because I was doing Rahdo, but then I was kind of doing it, but only on the weekends, and I sort of stopped. But then I'm like, hey, let's just keep doing it, because that was kind of fun. I could keep doing that. And Jen could work at home and make glass. Let's make a go of this. And that's where this really started. So I never really retired.
That's what I was going to say. What was your plans during your retirement? Were you going to did you have plans? Or you were just like, well, I'll just whatever? You're like, what am I going to learn carpentry or woodworking or anything like that?
This is what I was talking about earlier. I do not get any self-satisfaction by setting a goal for myself and then achieving it and saying, look upon my works. Do I not have worth as a human being? I was born to be rich. It drives me nuts how terrible some rich people are at being rich. I would just rock it because I would not feel compelled. I mean, I obviously I would give a lot away and I would and do charitable works, but I wouldn't feel that, oh, I have to keep pushing and get richer, because how do I define my worth if I can't double and triple and quadruple? It's like, look, if I got enough, I'm happy just couch potatoing for the rest of my life. When I was a little kid, of course, all little kids get asked by every adult they meet, what do you want to be when you grow up? And my answer was always, oh, I want to be rich. And everybody, oh, he's making it with his name. And he's like, no, I want to be rich. I recognize this now. I don't want to work. I don't feel like I need to work. I believe it is spiritual. I'm a total atheist, but I believe it is spiritually fulfilling for me, I can't speak for anybody else, to basically enjoy life through entertainment. And as long as there are other people who are willing to entertain me in the form of movies and TV shows and board games and books and everything else, I will happily live out the rest of my days. I am not driven to push myself. I started doing Rahdo runs through for mercenary reasons because I didn't want to give up my creature comforts. I continued doing it when I realized, things are happening with my mom and other stuff, and I don't want to go back to working in the video game industry. Let's start actually trying to make some money out of this. And it just morphed into where I am right now. I just bass-ackwardsly stumbled into this the exact same way I stumbled into being a video game designer, because I was doing it at a time when it wasn't a thing that people did. So I was just slightly ahead of the curve, and I got a little lucky. I can't imagine I would stand out now. If I were starting now,
if you started today, would you be?
I don't know. I don't know. I'd like to think so, because I still think, like I said earlier, I produce something that is very, very unique. There are other channels that emulate. I mean, Tom Heath, Slicker Drips. If you like my channel, everybody should go check out Tom Heath, Slicker Drips. Yep. Because, I mean, when he started out, he contacted me and said, hey, can I ape your style? And I said, sure. I would like people to ape my style, because then I'd have stuff I would like to watch, because I like my style. And so he does. He does a great job. In a lot of ways, he is a more professional, polished guy, a presenter than me. But I don't think he has the same energy as me. You know, he's not quite as, he's charming and affable, but he's not, I have a bit of manic to me, or I should say I have a bit of manic to my persona that he does not have. And I think that just gives me a little bit of electricity. You watch one of my run-throughs, and it's true, but you feel like anything could happen at any time, because I don't stack my decks. I am experiencing this game at the same time you are. I think that helps bring people in. So maybe I would stand out. I'd certainly be louder than anybody else. So I don't know though. What do you think? I know you like my show and you watch a lot of shows.
I don't know. Yeah. It's real hard to get noticed now. I mean, I see people, real good people, not
sharp
nothing,
people,
nothing,
professional
like
people who know
less
what they're
than
doing.
nothing. Yes. And maybe this is not the way forward for that. Maybe we need something different in the world of YouTube and Twitch and all that stuff, right? I mean, maybe the perfect medium has not been invented yet.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, there can only be, I mean, I hate to equate myself to a Brad Pitt, but many people go to Hollywood and their dreams are broken because there's only a few slots that come up. And, you know, it's hard work and it's determination. And I think it's luck. I think in every case, it's luck as well. A healthy dollop of it. Mm. And that's not fair, but it's the way it is.
I had a question
at least until we get post-scarcity. That's what I was trying to remember.
Post-scarcity.
When we get to our post-scarcity future. Because here's the deal. In 500 years from now, all our economy will be based on thumbs. That will be your contribution to a world economy is as a professional consumer of content, because there will always be people who are driven to make content. That will never go away. There are just some people who are wired to need to do that. And I worked with many people. Dean Carter is the ultimate example of somebody who needs Justin Langang. So many of my fellow designers, they will die if they are not creating and presenting. And but that was never me. I always considered myself, hey, I like working with you, and can I support you and solve your problems? Because you're such a big picture creative genius. I'm just pretty good at trying to figure out how to make tab A fit into slot B with the memory restraints that the jerk programmers put under us, while still not pissing off the artists because they don't get to push as many polys as they'd like to. That was always my job, and just make sure everybody's happy, everybody knows what we're doing. And I was always happy to get one of those creative geniuses to have that spark, because I don't necessarily have that. I signed up with Isaac Childress to do a level for Frosthaven. And I think, that'll be kind of fun. And I realized, wait, I forgot. I always needed a design partner to have that spark of genius, inspiration, creativity that I never had. Oh, no, I don't have one.
I'm sure you can find somebody to help you.
I'll figure it out. I'm talking with Paul Grogan, actually. We might do, because we're both on it, so we might have a 1-2.
Right. Some kind of back
I just need somebody. I can't do
it. I totally. Yeah, it's hard to work in a vacuum. For me personally, it's hard to work in a vacuum.
Yeah.
Like, I need something to drive it.
Did that answer your question, whatever it was?
Well, I was going to ask you, like, what was your plans for retirement?
Oh, yes.
And I guess...
Okay, like, yeah. And my plan was...
Nothing.
Here's my plan.
Consume entertainment.
Yeah, my plan was to pursue entertainment. For most of my life, until I started working in video games, I was the most voracious reader anybody knew. In college, I wanted to read every new novel that came out when it was still in hardback, and I couldn't afford it because I was in college, and I didn't want to wait 6 months on the waiting list at the Seattle Public Library to get it. So I would rent books and read them as fast as I could, because there was a bookstore in the University District in Seattle that literally rented books by the week, because it was a different time. And, my whole childhood growing up, my brother and I, we were homeschooled for a large part of it before I went to high school and got roped into that play that I talked about earlier. And my parents were always so worried that I was missing my entire childhood, because I was always nose stuck in a book, just like Belle from Beauty and the Beast. And it was weird. I mean, at 10, 11, 12, we were living on a boat in the middle of nowhere. And the only things I had to read, because that's all I did was read obsessively, because my parents would only give me 2 hours of TV a day. And those 2 hours, Star Trek, the original series, and Kung Fu. That is what I chose for my 2 hours every day. But I would just read and read and read. And it was just my parents' books. So I was reading Catch-22 and the complete works of Steinbeck at that time, because that was all I had. And it kind of defined me. And I have not read a novel in years and years and years and years. And so I thought, I'll finally stop running and I can just get back to reading. Because Jen is a voracious reader. She's almost as much as I used to be. And I am envious of her. But then I took this side thing, and I do read a lot, but it's all your site and rule books now. So that was my goal. My goal was just to ride off into the sunset and read books, watch TV, and just enjoy my time on this planet with my wife, my favorite person in the world. And seriously, one of the reasons I thought this would work is because by that point, I was very confident about the glue that board games provided for us in our lives, because they are so important to us. To get back on topic of why we're here.
No, I see that. Do you think you'll do that? Do you sense a feeling of doing that? Yeah, forever. Do you feel like you would ever do that? Like,
I could do it. I am confident that as long as people, and we're living through such a golden age of TV right now. Oh my gosh. I wish I could watch all the shows I want to watch. Although recently, man, I've just gone so far down the rabbit hole. I'm falling farther and farther behind on all the amazing shows I want to watch because I'm spending so much time watching so much amazing content on YouTube.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy who does the trailers where Barely Inconvenienced. I can't think of his name.
Barely Inconvenienced, not a problem.
Yeah. No problem.
Not a problem. Not a problem. Barely Inconvenienced. Yes. Wow.
Well, you're gonna have to get all the way off of my back on that. There's so much amazing stuff.
He's wonderful.
He's incredible.
He's wonderful.
And I hate bitchy, complaining, just persnickety, ripping movies apart and not enjoying them for what they are. I hate the the sins video, the videos that count how many sins. Yeah, I hate those. But I love him because he's just so hilarious.
No, he's good at
perfect.
It. He's real good at it.
What's his name? Ryan George. Yeah.
Is that right? I don't know. Yeah. I should know because I watched so much of it.
I know. And I mean that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Oh yeah.
There's so much to watch. There's no way in the time I have left on this world, I could come close to watching every show, watching every YouTube, reading every book, playing every game, seeing every movie that I want to. I will not get it all done in time, but I'll try. The only wrinkle to that is Jen, because she's my partner in life and I have to make sure this works for her. And slowly, she has changed me over the years and I'm changing her over the years too. And I think it's funny, when we went to Malta, she thought, oh, it's going to be such relaxed, laid back living. I can finally let go. I can allow myself, I give myself permission to let go on the constant drive. And she didn't. She just never stops pushing herself.
Now she's selling the glass at the shows.
Yes, and doing very well. Doing very well.
I've seen the crowds.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and for her, that's the thing. It's sure, yes, the income is fantastic, but for her, it's the validation. It makes her feel like, yes, what I'm doing matters, and it's just so ingrained in all of us.
Yeah,
that doesn't have to be the only thing that matters.
It drives me too.
Yeah, I'm sure you're a human being that grew up in this society that drilled that into your head. I don't know why it didn't get drilled into my head that I never had any ambition.
I was going to ask you. We're about 10 minutes off our time. We're 10 minutes from finishing. So I have the other stupid question, and then I want to ask you a personal question. Are you a clean person or messy?
I am actually, everyone's complicated. I'm actually fairly fastidious. My desk, every desk I ever had at every job I had was spotless. My desktop, if I were to share my desktop, there's
no icons.
There's 6 icons from the top left down, and that's it. And the rest is just totally empty. I'm very orderly, I think. Although I'm sure a lot of people would be mortified if I open these boxes because I don't know, maybe it's some kind of
toss it in. Rebellion,
guilty pleasure that I love nothing more than to say, oh, all those cubes, let's just pour them all into a pile right there. Don't separate the cubes. Let them intermingle. Let them mix and match.
I'm a separator.
For the most part, I have a little OCD. I've been doing this for 2 hours now, just constantly readjusting these little stacks of cards.
Right, you've been straightening them you'll never get them perfectly straight.
I know. I just can't stop myself. So, that said, you want a dirty secret? I take a shower once a week.
Really?
And that has been the case ever since. This was when I was still at Lionhead, and I watched some BBC documentary about how bad it is for us to take showers and use chemical soaps and wash our hair. And if we stop, there's an adjustment period where, oh, you're kind of funky to be around. But eventually, when you get back into the natural rhythm that we literally evolved from apes to do, I mean, people hang out with me and they don't tell me I stink. Maybe they're being polite, but I think I'm doing okay. I never wash my hair. When I do take a shower once a week, the main reason that makes me take a shower is because, oh, this is getting a little long. I need to shave. Okay, time to take a shower. Yeah, so I basically go all natural. I use a 100% natural deodorant because I don't want any aluminum clogging up my pores because of all the probably sketchy. It's probably fine, but still, why take the chance? I can go for these, all natural ones that are mostly not antiperspirant. Yeah, I'll perspire all day long. The deodorant will take care of it. And yeah, it works fine. Jen doesn't have a problem with it. And I am much happier for it. And I have a hard time imagining literally taking a shower every single morning, 7 days a week. Why did I do that all my life? All the water I wasted. My God.
Do you wear cologne?
No.
Okay. Did you ever wear cologne?
No, I've never been that guy. Anytime anybody has ever met me and said, oh, I'm going to call you Rick. Like, no, you are not. I am
Rick.
not.
You're not Rick. You're not Rick.
Rick.
Did anybody ever call you Dick? Did anybody ever call you Dick?
My dad was Dick, and people do it jokingly, but no. I mean, I think most people realize that's not fun. Nobody.
My stepfather was Dick.
Yeah.
His name,
really?
Obviously. Yeah, he wouldn't go by Rick. I don't think I ever heard anybody call him Richard.
Yep. Now, my family, all growing up, always called me Raw because I'm Richard Allen Ham. My initials are RAH.
Raw.
So my whole family has always called me Raw my whole life. I guess friends in high school, because I didn't really have any friends until then, they called me Richard, I guess. No, a lot of people called me Rich. But yeah, I always just felt self-conscious. If anybody calls me Rick, that's just like, oh, it gives me bad shivers. That doesn't feel right. That doesn't sit well.
Were you a good student?
I was a very good student. No, I was a terrible student. I was an insanely lazy student. I did not live up to my potential. I was solid, nonstop, low A's, high B's. And I did that with zero work. I remember my Algebra 1, Algebra 2 trigonometry teacher. He did a pretty good job explaining. And if I just even half paid attention in class, I could retain enough of it that I didn't have to bother. I'd retain it long enough to be able to take the test in a month or whatever. But we had homework assignments. And his teacher assistant knew that I didn't take it seriously because I just literally did gobbledygook because it didn't. For some reason, he was very laissez-faire and it didn't affect our grade. The only thing that affected our grade was our actual test results, and I could do the test just remembering what he said in class. So I just doodled on my assignments in English class and honors English because I could get into all the honors programs. But when we had to do memorize a poem, I would just say, okay, I want to be last. I got myself last on the list for the class. And while everybody else was up there that they'd spent the previous night memorizing, I was just like this. Yeah, look, wasn't brilliant for the Mudville 9 that day. The score for 4-2 and just saying it over and over so I could just remember it long enough to get up and say it and then immediately forget it. Everything I did was the absolute minimum amount of work that I could do and get away. And because I was clever, I was able to be a pretty much straight A student. And my mom kept warning me over and over and over again, that will not work in college. You are going to be in for a rude awakening. And she was right. I did not get along. I didn't flunk out of college, but man, I just so resented. I am paying you so much money. How dare you give me a C? Don't you know I half-assedly typed this up last night? Come on, man. I did my part.
And I paid you your $1,000 tuition.
Yeah. And
when it was actually $1,000. Yeah. I mean, when it was really like $500 quarter.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, when it was only partial, or only tiny bit insane. Man, yeah. When I first moved to England and I heard people talking about their university debt, I still got $3,000 to pay off. Shut up, you do not. Oh man,
they don't know.
Yep, they do not know. And today it's so insane.
Thank you everybody in the chat for watching. I'll do one more question, which is basically just a board game question. I'll tone it down a little. I'll tone it down a little bit. Yeah. So what are you looking forward to? What are you thinking about these conventions now? Like, I know you weren't like a huge convention goer, but you were a convention goer. What do you think? What's going to happen here? Do you have a prediction of how?
I think
a future prediction.
Well, I don't want to bring anybody down, but the reality is, I mean, the writing's on the wall for what we're going to continue doing. And it means a lot of people are going to die, just like they do in every pandemic. And there will be a huge depression as a result. And you know what? Today, the Spanish flu doesn't really affect yours and my life. As a society, we will get over it. And a lot of people will be just fine, and we'll pick up the pieces and keep moving. I wish we'd be smarter. I wish every time I go out of the house to go pick up some food for mom or whatever, because I don't go out unless I have to. I wish everybody I saw was wearing masks, but probably only 1 in 5, if that, are wearing masks, and they just refuse. And it's like, it's nothing to you to do this. Anybody watching, it's nothing to do. I know it feels silly. I know you feel dumb. Just think to yourself, oh, I'm so much better than all of you. You're the stupid ones. Just remind yourself, because they're the ones who are putting your risk at life while you're actually trying to save them. Wear a mask. But it doesn't matter, because from the top on down, it has become a culture war thing that you don't support Trump if you wear a mask. So, I mean, I live in a relatively conservative section of Washington State, which is a very liberal state. So, I mean, that's just going to be the reality of it. You could run BGG Con this November. You totally could. And you wouldn't do as well as you did last year or the year before. It'd probably be something more like whatever you were doing 6 or 7 years ago. But you get plenty of people showing up. And because you did that, some people would die who might live otherwise, which is why you're not going to do it, because I know you. But a year from next month, the people who didn't die will still want to go. And we will, by hook or by crook, unfortunately, the hard way, reach herd immunity. We could have done it the smart way, but nobody ever accused us of being smart. I hate to say.
Some people.
That's a good one to end on.
Well, I'm not going to end on that.
Okay, yes. Okay,
I mean,
good.
I got one more. I got, give me 3 games you're looking forward to. I know you got a list.
Yeah, I do. Hold on, let me grab it.
Yeah, sure, grab it. And thank you again, everybody, for watching. I hope you've enjoyed us on talking. I've enjoyed it.
I'm sure this is not what they expected.
I hope not. Yeah, well, I told you it was going to be a weird one.
Yes, you did. No, and this was fantastic.
Thanks.
I posted on the social medias. I'm going to get some hard-hitting questions. I don't know what that means.
I probably could have come up with some harder ones, but
no, this was fun.
I think these were fun. I think they were most interesting to me.
Yeah, they weren't gotcha questions. They were just
no. I don't gotcha. Who wants to play? Who wants to do that? You'd never talk to me again.
No. I would have been fun with that. But that's kind of what I was expecting.
Oh.
Let's see. I need to sort by. All right. What am I excited about? Well, of course, it's not in your database yet, but have they not yet officially announced that we'll get Pandemic 3 this year?
I guess it's not been officially announced.
So it's still just whispers? If
yeah,
so, I will
but it's
leave
coming.
it off the list.
It's coming, right?
Yeah, of course. It has to be this year. It has to be this year. So, but I'll leave that off the list because it doesn't exist yet. If it's not on BoardGameGeek, it don't exist as far as I'm concerned. I am very excited about the return of Project Elite.
Oh, yeah. I never got to play it.
Triumphant return of Project Elite. I'm very excited about that. And in large part because, oh man, that was such a sad and in board game terms, tragic story. The what happened with the development. Did you just blow me a kiss?
No, I blew my wife a kiss.
How dare you?
She brought me a new iced tea.
So anyway, that was a troubled production. We were talking about our heartbreaking experiences in the video game industry.
Yeah.
Project Elite was just as heartbreaking for Artipia Games, for Constantine. I mean, he put everything into that game, and everything blew up in his face. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I can't even imagine the hardship and the heartache that went through. So it's so wonderful. I would just feel happy.
Is that documented anywhere? Is that story documented anywhere? Or is that just sort of like inside talk?
No. I shouldn't say really anything.
Yeah. Okay. Let's just say it went wrong
about it. I don't think I think he's done some very oblique public comments because it had all the problems with the miniatures.
Yeah.
The miniatures, which were promised to be amazing, ended up all looked like melted ice cream, basically.
Right.
And it was hard to get, and there were all kinds of fulfillment problems, and it kind of broke him. And I remember him swearing, no one will ever play this game. I want this game buried and dead. I want it out of my life because it hurts so much. And it took years before he would entertain the idea of well, maybe, and it was so heartbreaking because it was so personal and important to him. So I'm so glad that Come On found a way and it's coming. So I'm super excited about that. I am very excited about Tom Lehman's Dice Realms.
Yes,
very good.
That's cool. That looked great.
Yep. Yeah. And I'll just cheat and say we're getting a year of Feld this year. So I'll lump all the Feldy Feld stuff together. How about that?
All the 19 million city games.
Yeah. Well,
Which is cool.
Yes. Yeah, I know a little bit that I'm not allowed to say about it, but I'm very excited about that. And not just that. I mean, was it Tuscany and Bonfire? So we're getting 2 fully new games from him, and then on top of that, we're getting this new series.
Yeah, and some games that are maybe have been hard to get in the past.
Yes. Oh, yes. Well, one can
maybe I don't know. Yeah, we can only assume.
I'll leave.
Well, it was sort of
dropping of hints to Feld. He has actually been dropping hits on BGG, and he never posts. So that means he's excited. Oh
yeah. I met him at Gen Con last year.
More, but I will, or I'll stop right there.
We'll call it at that.
Okay.
I mean, we probably could go for like another half an hour talking about games, but we'll save that for another time.
Okay.
We'll do a game interview at some point.
All right.
So, wow, so many great people in chat. Thank you all for sticking with us and watching.
I haven't even looked.
Oh yeah, there's pretty good list.
Oh no, and this is on Twitch, so I won't be able to see them later, will I? Because Twitch.
No, but you can replay. You can do a replay.
Can you?
Yeah, it'll be here for at least how long will it be here? Trash Rama knows the systems. I think it's like a month. It'll be here.
Okay, the actual chat transcribed notes.
Yep. If you watch the video again and play it, and they have fast forward, they have high speed.
Yes.
The comments will scroll with the video.
Cool. Yeah, actually, I admit, every week, I do that show with Tom Vassell, Corner to Corner, and he's running the show. I'm not really paying that much attention to the chat. Right. After it's done, I always go back and I watch it at 3x speed with the sound off, just so I can see what everybody said. So I would love to see, as I'm sure there's a lot of really good observations. I always find that to be the case. So whoever showed up, thank you.
1 month. Yeah. Thanks everybody for watching. Thank you, Richard, for giving me your time. Sorry I screwed up the time zones.
Oh, no. It worked out
but it looks like it's worked out. And
and you have found a new calling. You did a great job. Those were fantastic. I know you felt silly about them, but those were great questions.
Thank you.
Those were the best interview questions I've had in years.
Appreciate that.
And I'm serious. I'm not hyperbole. That was
maybe you never know. I might start up a new series.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's always what games or what are your favorite games and this and that and the other. I mean, and that's fine. I don't mind answering all those questions, but no, I mean, you made me think.
And I think I honestly that's why I stopped interviewing from years back, because we always had the same
on your podcast
in 2005.
Podcast was an interview show, right?
2005. But we always had the same questions, so it was like, boring. You got to think of different questions. Cool.
I hope not this one.
I hope not this one.
For me anyway. The audience, I couldn't say.
Yeah, you never know. I was entertained. Yeah. It's all about me.
Exactly.
All right, everybody. Hope you're having fun at the virtual Game Con, and I'll see you tomorrow. I think we're doing a game night at 7 p.m. Central. I'm pretty sure we're doing a game night at 7 p.m. Central. The timing is all weird. This virtual gaming in the world with a global time zone stuff is hard. But
it's a brave new world you have introduced us to. Well done.
True. Thanks. All right. See you, everybody. Bye.
Bye.